Welcome everybody, we're so glad that you're joining us today. We are going to be talking about something a little different today. So we are going to be talking about having healthy boundaries. So I don't know if you guys have experienced this or not, but I know prior to my diagnosis, I was terrible at drawing boundaries.
Yes.
And it was a long process for me personally prior to being diagnosed of understanding what boundaries are. And then when you're faced with a trauma or something life-changing like cancer, it's definitely going to give you the opportunity to put these boundaries into place. So Jennifer is joining me. She's obviously our breast nurse navigator. And then Katie, you guys have met Katie before, so she's joining us too. So first of all, let's just define what are boundaries.
Sure.
Do you want to tell them that?
Sure. I think so. Boundaries and setting healthy boundaries are just really, it requires self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I think just knowing, be clear about your expectations of yourself and what you expect of others. And what we're not comfortable with in specific situations. So if there's something we're not comfortable with, just knowing that. Mm-hmm. And setting healthy boundaries requires really good communication. Mm-hmm. I think you have to be able to be assertive and to be able to communicate clearly and just clarify what you really mean and what you really want. Assertiveness involves expressing your feelings openly and respectfully. Mm-hmm. So not making demands, not yelling. It really requires people to listen to you. And setting healthy boundaries requires you to assert your needs and priorities as a form of self-care. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, if we have those healthy boundaries, it's not a negative thing. It's a form of self-care when you're going through cancer.
Yeah.
So,
well, I feel like, first of all, I didn't even know what a boundary was.
Right.
So I think sometimes we misinterpret what a boundary is. And a boundary is not intended to necessarily cut people off. Yeah. That's not the role of a boundary. So a boundary is simply, I think, just like you said, exhibiting self-care in your own life. Mm-hmm. And let's talk about an example of that. So sure. Do you have an example of a boundary?
Yeah. Okay. So I was very much like you. Like I am such a passive person, people pleaser. Don't rock the boat. Just let everybody just do whatever they want, and
make
it's easier.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think one of the good things that came from my cancer is having the confidence to set those boundaries, and it came from like a place of desperation because there were people in my life that I felt like had push. And if I hadn't had cancer, it would probably feel normal because that was what the relationship already was.
Yes.
I think having cancer, and then I was like, I can't take on this extra stress on top of everything else. Mm-hmm. So it really kind of gave me, the way it made sense in my mind was, it's either this or I might have a worse outcome. Mm-hmm. Like my mental health might take it even more of a deep dive. I don't feel good about this, and anything that's not making me feel good, I was just cutting out. Because I was like, I can't emotionally, physically, spiritually afford any more of this.
You can't exert any more energy.
No, and so that was probably the first time really in my life that I really was, this is a firm boundary for me and standing up for myself, and it was hard.
Yeah. Well, especially as a people pleaser.
Yeah. Yes.
Because then you're owning it. Like if they get disappointed or if they're upset.
Yes.
You're like, ugh.
I feel like cancer can give you this weird superhuman confidence in that regard because I'm like, you can't be mean to me right now.
Yeah.
I'm going through it. I don't care. You can't be mean to me. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that is a positive thing. They really helped that.
This is a simple, maybe a simple boundary, but it really wasn't simple for me. I'm like Katie, even the smallest thing, it was really hard for me. But as a small example, when people want to do a food train for you, and I learned this the hard way because the first time I felt like I needed to let everybody who was delivering a meal come in and visit me. And like they stay for like an hour and you're exhausted.
Yeah.
And then you feel this need that you have to talk to them and they're sitting there watching you like try not to fall asleep, and then they don't know what to say and you're like, I don't want to say anything.
Yeah.
So it was like the second time Steve and we talked through it, and
Good.
I was like, okay, they're not coming in. They can leave it at the door or they can meet you, but like we need to let them know that she's not feeling well or she's just taking a nap or whatever.
Yeah.
That was just a small example
Yeah.
of
Right.
starting to draw boundaries. But where it got a little more difficult, I think, was when it comes to your family,
Oh yeah.
because they want to be there for you, but sometimes they are just sucking the life out of you.
right.
And they are just wanting to try to be helpful, but it's really draining, and so that's where it can get a little sticky.
Well, and I think, especially being a people pleaser, because I am as well, and I think having those healthy boundaries, we think, oh my gosh, I'm going to offend this
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
But really, they respect you.
I think so too.
Yeah. And
They-
not everything is what I think the biggest thing is not everything is transactional.
Right.
I don't have to give the same energy that I'm being given right now.
That's good.
No.
If I'm not capable of doing
so
that.
good. That is
So
good.
I don't need to, as much as I would love to send a thank you note for all these wonderful things that I'm
Right.
getting while I'm going through a hard time. I can't remember 5 seconds ago what happened. So
Yeah.
I'm going to give myself grace and take that off of my plate. I am
Right.
thankful for receiving this, but it's not transactional. And if it is, then that's probably not
They
something you
shouldn't have
need.
given it with the expectation
Exactly.
of
Yes.
having that.
Exactly.
I don't think they do.
Yeah.
You know, people just want to help. They don't know
Yeah.
how to help, and they think that I need to be there with you, sitting by your side this whole time.
Right.
No, that's too stressful on me.
Well, it comes back to like what you were saying, clearly communicate and have realistic expectations, I think,
Yeah.
on both ends. think that was really great too, what you just
Yeah.
said. And we say this a lot in our family. We teach people how to treat us. And
Yes.
so if we're not going to assert ourselves, if we are not going to communicate
Right.
clearly in a loving way, it doesn't have to be hateful.
No.
But say what it is you need.
Yeah.
Say what it is you want. And I think people do respect it.
Yeah.
They do. And I think we've talked about it before. If there's things that you really want and you need help with, you know, even if you have to make a list of the items that you need, when somebody reaches out, say, look, I really don't have the energy for you to come over and talk to me right now.
Yeah.
But what I do need is for you to go pick up my children from school.
Yeah.
What I do need is for you to cook a meal and leave it at my door at 5 o'clock.
Yes.
Yes, and don't
Yes.
expect to have any facial interaction.
Interaction,
Yeah.
yes.
I read this article recently about a woman that was, I think she had been diagnosed with breast cancer, and the title of the article was, I don't want to eat the hot wing, or I don't want to eat the chicken wings. So it's this huge meal train, and you know, the family's like, this is amazing, but I don't know how to vocalize. So like, what I could really use is somebody to like go on a walk with me on the beach, or somebody that might be able to like pick my kid up from school. And so it was such an interesting article, because I think especially like in the South, like that's like our way we show
Food.
Definitely.
Right.
yeah. And so to see, like, you know, I actually, like, really what I would enjoy is, like, one-on-one time where you just walk alongside me, and things like that. And I think that vocalization was beautiful.
I like that too, because like you said, it comes back to communication and clearly communicating that. If somebody asks, give them an honest answer.
Yes.
And I think sometimes too, like maybe go to the movies with me or just hang out with me.
Yeah,
and
do
let's
something
not
normal.
Let's do something fun.
Yeah.
And not talk about cancer.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's one of the biggest things I've taken away. You know, I've had friends that have cancer or other like illnesses or things going on. So I don't just ask, let me know if you need anything. They're not going to let you know.
No.
They're not going to let you know. What can I do that could be helpful right now? What can I do to support you? Like, what would you like?
Yes.
Right.
And letting them tell you instead of
Right.
just saying, "Oh, I'm here if you need me." It's like,
Yeah.
well, I'm never going to reach. I'm never
Right.
going to reach
No.
out. Yeah.
That's good.
And I think as you're setting these boundaries, if there's something that bothers you, that address it one-on-one, is
Yeah.
it directly with that person. Don't go to a third person and say, oh, you know, mom's really getting on my nerves right now. go directly to them and say, this is what you're doing that I just can't handle right now. But I love you, I appreciate you, but these are the things. And I think making your expectations, like we said, clear, not assuming that people will figure it out. Because I think that for myself, I expect others to, oh, well, you should just know this is how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
But others don't. We can't assume that. And that's where we get angry, we get feelings of resentment. So,
Well, it's because we're not being honest.
yes.
Yeah, we're not being vulnerable and
Right.
saying what we need.
Well,
and
they don't know. Like, if
Right.
you're not going to
Right.
communicate it, then
Right,
how would
and-
they know?
Right.
And to be kind is to communicate.
Yes.
And, it's kind of like, you don't just assume your husband's probably cooking dinner. If you want him to, you probably need to say it.
Yes.
You probably need to say it. And it goes the same way with this. Like, it's hard, but it's a good practice of being kind to yourself and others.
Yeah. And I think declining anything you don't want to do, because you need to
Yeah.
guard yourself, your time. So
Yeah.
if there's something you normally would have done, but you just, hey, I don't have the energy, say no.
Right.
Be honest with them, like we say, and say no.
And you don't have to be Wonder Woman. I feel like as
No.
women,
Oh,
a lot of
goodness.
times we're trying to keep up with this idea that it's kind of like an unspoken expectation I feel like people put on us, where you're still having to, and people almost celebrate it too. Oh my gosh, you still work full time, you're still taking
Oh,
the
yeah.
kids, you're still doing this,
Yeah.
like you're better because you're doing all that. But sometimes people are so exhausted because they
Yeah.
are trying to keep up
Right.
that it's okay to say no. It's okay to create margin. I feel like for myself, the second time, like I wanted to create margin intentionally.
Right.
So you give your body that time to heal
Yeah.
emotionally. Like I went on long-term disability the second time. I didn't need to necessarily. Like I could have kept up, but did I need to?
Yeah.
And so I chose personally, like, no, my children were in kindergarten and first grade. That was already physically exhausting. And so I wanted to create that margin during the day where my body could rest so when they came home, I could be more available.
Yeah.
But that comes with having self-awareness.
Understanding what's important
Yes,
to you.
what I
Yeah.
wanted. And so, and that's okay. Like, I don't feel like you have to be all things to all people.
No.
And it comes back to, like you said, self-care, knowing what is best for you and being okay with that.
And I think for myself, my husband and I were going through the process of building a new house. We'd lost ours to a fire right before I was diagnosed. So we were going through the process of that. He was taking care of 2 teenage girls that, teenagers by themselves are another PTSD trauma event. He had to set boundaries too. And, I didn't get upset with it. He said, I think it's best during this time that you go ahead and stay with your mother. And let her take care of you, because at that time his plate was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
He was trying to work, he was trying to move, he was trying to take care of the girls and all of their needs. And realistically, he couldn't take care of me,
Right.
not to the way that I needed at that time.
Yeah.
So, I didn't take offense to that. I was
Kudos to
like,
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the emotional energy I'm feeling, just you talking about
Yeah.
that, like how stressed he must have felt,
Yes.
and that comes into your environment too.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
He extended that to you.
Yeah, so I was able to go stay with my mother. She wasn't working, she was retired, and my best friends came in town from out of state so that they could take turns taking care of me, so that when my mother did have things, I had somebody else there to, babysit me, make sure I was
Yeah.
doing what I needed to be doing, my exercises and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah.
I think
so.
it's awesome too that you didn't take offense to it too. Like you didn't
Yeah.
have an unrealistic expectation of him as your husband. No, you need to be the one to do it. I
Right.
think that's
Right.
awesome. Like mutual respect on both sides.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And
Just like you can't do everything, he can't do everything either.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that goes to show you that others aren't going to take offense or feel like it's a slight against them because you have to set those healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
They're going to respect you. They really
Yeah.
are. So, 3 easy steps I think that we can do to help set those healthy boundaries, or like we said, be as clear and straightforward as possible. You don't need to raise your voice,
Yeah.
you know. And I know, and especially in marriages when we're stressed and the close ones,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes we do, but state your need or your request directly in terms of what you'd like rather than what you don't want or what you don't like. You know, that puts it on a positive note. This is what I need, this is what I like, rather than this is what I don't need. And for myself, I think accept any discomfort that arises because of that result, whether it's guilt, whether it's shame, whether it's remorse. Just accept that discomfort that you might feel from setting those boundaries.
Yeah, because
And
we're not
it's okay.
responsible for other people's emotion.
And it's a new
Exactly.
exercise. It's going to be
It's
going to
gonna
be
feel
uncomfortable,
uncomfortable.
but cancer is a great opportunity to practice new
Skills.
skills, exactly. And this is probably one of the best ones.
Yeah. So we've all learned, and still I think are learning, how to implement healthy boundaries in our life. But like Jen said, first of all, we need to have self-awareness. Secondly, we need to communicate clearly, and we don't need to take offense, and we need to be okay with not being okay sometimes. So, and I think there's a really great podcast, Boundaries.me, that has a lot of information. There's an author named Henry Cloud. He's written a whole series of different boundaries books, and there's a slew of information online to learn how to implement healthy boundaries. But we just know that it's something for our health and for our own healing that it's important to have these healthy boundaries. So, let us know. I hope that this has been helpful for you today, because I know that it's something that we believe is really important and necessary to discuss. So let us know if you have any questions, if you would like some more resources. Jen is a slew of information, so feel free to contact us at project31.com, and we just appreciate you joining us today. We'll see you next time.